soon after that. Immediately following the previous event. Satellites launched successfully, soon after that. Space exploration intensified greatly. Vaccines were developed, soon after that. Public health began improving significantly. The microscope was improved, soon after that. Microbiology emerged as a major field. At this juncture, at this specific point in time, at this juncture, genetic research holds promise for treating rare hereditary diseases. At this juncture, humanity faces ethical dilemmas in artificial intelligence applications. At this juncture, global partnerships are vital for climate change mitigation strategies. On the contrary, the opposite of what was stated. Some consider philosophy useless. On the contrary, it sharpens critical thinking skills. Many assume children dislike reading. On the contrary, most enjoy engaging narratives. People feared automation. On the contrary, it created diverse job opportunities globally. As a consequence, as a result of something else, fossil fuels dominated energy. As a consequence, renewable research gained traction. Satellites improved weather forecasts. As a consequence, disaster readiness improved. Genetic studies expanded. As a consequence, personalized medicine gained popularity. In particular, especially, focusing on one detail. The new curriculum emphasizes critical thinking, in particular, problem-solving skills. In particular, the Amazon rainforest holds immense value for biodiversity and medicine. The study, in particular, targeted adolescents with behavioral and emotional challenges. It's a fallacy. An idea that contains faulty reasoning. It's a fallacy to believe ancient civilizations lacked scientific reasoning or knowledge. It's a fallacy to believe that success depends solely on individual talent and hard work. It's a fallacy to assume wealth guarantees lifelong happiness or emotional satisfaction. Even though, despite the fact that something happens, even though quantum physics is abstract, it drives real-world technological progress. Even though alchemy failed scientifically, it influenced modern chemistry significantly. The economy grew steadily even though inflation remained a constant public concern. Unquestionably. Beyond doubt, clearly the case. Newton's contributions, unquestionably, shaped the foundations of classical physics. The discovery of antibiotics, unquestionably transformed modern medicine worldwide. Unquestionably, lifelong learning is essential in today's fast-evolving technological era. In some cases, happens under specific or limited situations. Emotional responses, in some cases, overpower logical reasoning in difficult decisions. In some cases, automation increases employment in newly created technical industries. In some cases, remote work improves productivity and employee job satisfaction levels. Studies have shown. Research has revealed certain information. Studies have shown that space travel affects astronauts' bone density and immunity. Studies have shown prolonged screen time impairs students' academic performance. Studies have shown that diet significantly affects brain development in early childhood. In essence, most important or central aspect of an idea. The theory, in essence, suggests that all living organisms share a common ancestor. The novel's theme, in essence, revolves around human resilience during times of war. The conflict, in essence, arose from misunderstandings between rival political factions. Without a doubt. Completely certain or sure about. Without a doubt, the printing press accelerated the spread of scientific knowledge. Without a doubt, curiosity drives most breakthroughs in both science and technology. Without a doubt, language acquisition becomes harder with age, but never impossible. In order that. So that something may happen. Languages are preserved, in order that cultural heritage remains intact and accessible. Resources were distributed equally, in order that no group faced unfair disadvantages. Methods are documented thoroughly, in order that others may replicate experiments. All in all, taking everything into consideration. All in all, public transport remains more sustainable than private vehicle usage globally. All in all, the experiment confirmed Newton's theories about gravitational interactions. All in all, genetic engineering holds promise despite ongoing ethical and social concerns. With regard to Concerning or relating to something. The model failed with regard to forecasting accurate migration patterns of the birds. With regard to robotics, automation improves efficiency in manufacturing industries. The data, with regard to atmospheric changes, strongly suggest a rise in temperature. As long as. To put a condition of time on an action. Peace prevails as long as nations honor diplomatic agreements and shared interests. Forests can recover as long as deforestation is responsibly controlled and monitored. Students thrive as long as supportive learning environments are properly maintained. Sooner or later. It will happen at some time in the future. Sooner or later, psychological stress manifests in emotional or physical health issues. Scientific breakthroughs, sooner or later, will transform how we understand diseases. Sooner or later, language learners acquire fluency with consistent immersive exposure. Most importantly. Above everything else in significance. Most importantly, the new device works without relying on external energy sources. Philosophy, most importantly, questions the nature and limits of human understanding. Genetic engineering, most importantly, must consider ecological and social implications. It should be noted. Take notice of this information. It should be noted that deforestation accelerates climate change across many regions. It should be noted, Einstein's theories reshaped physics and human perception of time. It should be noted, early astronomers relied solely on naked-eye celestial observations. In relation to. Connected or concerning a topic. In relation to economics, inflation impacts purchasing power and consumer behavior. In relation to agriculture, biotechnology has sparked major social and economic debate. In relation to psychology, motivation theories are continuously evolving and expanding. Whether or not. Regardless of the condition involved. It's unclear whether or not traditional farming methods can still sustain populations. Whether or not crime declines, justice systems should focus on rehabilitation policies. Scholars discuss whether or not artificial intelligence should replace human judgment. Historically. In accordance with or with respect to history. Historically, monarchies controlled most aspects of governance and national identity. Historically, storytelling preserved traditions before the invention of written language. Historians agree that, historically, revolutions often follow prolonged political injustice. Not only that. There's something more to mention. The theory proved controversial. Not only that, it sparked global academic debates. The printing press spread ideas. Not only that, it democratized scientific knowledge. Darwin's theory evolved biology. Not only that, it impacted psychology and sociology. In the meantime, during the time between two events, students await lab results. In the meantime, they review related theoretical concepts. The debate continued loudly. In the meantime, citizens peacefully marched in protest. The summit was postponed. In the meantime, diplomats held virtual bilateral meetings. Up until now. From before to the present moment. The study of ancient civilizations, up until now, lacked advanced archaeological tools. The cultural link was speculative up until now, lacking concrete archaeological support. His discoveries remained unnoticed up until now, despite years of meticulous research. At any rate, regardless of what else happens, at any rate, students must grasp foundational theories in physical and social sciences. Their approach, at any rate, prioritized human welfare over short-term economic gains. At any rate, scientific models require constant updating as evidence becomes available. Simultaneously. Things that are happening at the same time. The robots were programmed to perform tasks simultaneously, with high precision. Simultaneously, urban life offers opportunities and challenges for modern residents. They simultaneously investigated both suspects for potential links to the cybercrime. As soon as, in the shortest possible time, as soon as teachers explain clearly, students show greater interest and engagement. Students understand concepts better, as soon as interactive methods are introduced. As soon as the data was updated, analysts revised their market predictions accordingly. All of a sudden, If something happens quickly and unexpectedly. All of a sudden, peace talks collapsed, igniting violence across the disputed border. All of a sudden, the crowd applauded the artist's unexpected, moving performance. All of a sudden, the robotic arm malfunctioned during the laboratory demonstration. As well as. In addition to something else. Newton contributed to optics as well as laying foundations for classical mechanics. The microscope revolutionized biology, as well as advanced modern medical research. She researched climate impacts, as well as renewable energy policies for governments. Next to. Immediately beside or adjacent to. The ecosystem, next to the river, supports several endangered amphibian species. The new device was installed next to the original equipment in the laboratory room. The experiment setup was arranged next to the control group to observe differences. Equally important. Of the same significance or relevance. Education improves knowledge, equally important, it develops critical thinking skills. Learning requires content, equally important, it thrives through critical thinking skills. Chemistry evolved with better tools, equally important was theoretical understanding. By and large. Generally speaking, mostly true. By and large, literature mirrors societal norms, beliefs, and evolving cultural attitudes. By and large, ancient philosophies still influence modern political thought and reasoning. By and large, interdisciplinary studies foster greater problem solving across global issues. As things stand. Based on the current situation. As things stand, current models cannot fully predict volcanic eruptions with precision. As things stand, privacy concerns persist amid the rapid rise of biometric technologies. As things stand, inflation has eroded purchasing power across most developing nations. Eventually. At some later time in the end. Eventually, rising temperatures will force significant changes in agricultural practices. Students practice critical thinking and eventually develop strong problem-solving skills. Eventually, new discoveries will redefine our understanding of time, space, and matter. On the whole. Taking everything into account. On the whole, international trade boosts economies, but affects local businesses. Research data, on the whole, supports climate change mitigation strategies globally. Historical analysis, on the whole, reveals patterns in political revolutions worldwide. Ups and downs. Rises and falls of fortune, good and bad times. Every career path includes ups and downs that test professional integrity and resolve. Sports teams experience ups and downs that influence their performance consistency. Careers in entertainment encounter frequent ups and downs based on public interest. In spite of. Without being affected by the particular factor. In spite of heavy rainfall, the outdoor concert continued without major disruptions. In spite of poor performance, the artist remained hopeful and continued to practice. In spite of setbacks, scientists pursued the Mars mission with relentless determination. Some may argue. Certain people might present disagreement. Some may argue that handwriting remains vital, despite technological writing tools. Some may argue that stricter laws violate fundamental human rights and freedoms. Some may argue that privacy concerns outweigh the benefits of digital surveillance. With the aim of doing something for a purpose. With the aim of improving hygiene, scientists invented antiseptic surgical methods. The campaign was launched with the aim of raising awareness about climate change. The government introduced the policy with the aim of curbing corporate tax evasion. To clarify further. Explain something with more detail. They reviewed historical data to clarify further the long-term impact of pollution. His theory lacks concrete proof. To clarify further, no experiments were conducted. To clarify further, the study identifies genetic variations affecting plant survival rates. Not quite true. Something is slightly incorrect or inaccurate. The results seemed conclusive, but that assumption was not quite true in practice. Not quite true to say technology alone improves education, without skilled teaching. Not quite true to assume renewable energy is entirely without environmental impact. It appears that. It seems to be the case. 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 It see It appears that space exploration expands knowledge beyond Earth's physical limits. It appears that the new algorithm improves accuracy in predicting protein structures. After further analysis, it appears that the fossils are significantly older than estimated. In front of. Located before or facing something. In front of many challenges, people often discover their true strengths and values. Engineers tested the model in front of the committee before approval was granted. The prototype was displayed in front of the panel during the innovation competition. Presumably. Likely true based on current evidence. The specimen vanished overnight, presumably due to improper storage procedures. Presumably, the increase in urbanization affects biodiversity in many natural habitats. The experiment failed, presumably because the control variables were not maintained. For the sake of. For the benefit or purpose of. For the sake of efficiency, farmers began adopting genetically modified crop varieties. The curriculum changed for the sake of enhancing linguistic immersion among learners. Forests were preserved for the sake of ecological balance and biodiversity conservation. In general terms. Speaking broadly or without specifics. In general terms, ancient civilizations contributed significantly to art and architecture. In general terms, human behavior is influenced by genetics and environmental factors. In general terms, the law prioritizes justice while protecting fundamental human rights. In light of this, considering this new information, in light of this, diplomatic efforts must focus on conflict resolution and peacebuilding. In light of this, economic support should target low-income families during recessions. In light of this, scholars reassessed historical explanations of human migration patterns. Namely, give more information about something. There are several threats to biodiversity, namely poaching and habitat destruction. The results highlight two anomalies, namely outliers and inconsistent sample sizes. Two nations, namely Japan and Germany, emerged as invention leaders after the war. Regardless. Despite the prevailing circumstances. Regardless of tradition, gender equality must be prioritized in all professional fields. The robot functions efficiently, regardless of the terrain or environmental conditions. Artistic expression flourishes, regardless of political constraints or public disapproval. In the long run. Over a lengthy period of time, in the end. Preserving cultural heritage ensures traditions survive, in the long run successfully. In the long run, consistent study habits yield better academic and cognitive results. In the long run, investing in education yields significant social and economic benefits. Before long, something will happen in the near future. Cultural festivals attract tourists and, before long, boost local economies significantly. Before long, urbanization will cause significant changes in rural community structures. The restoration efforts succeeded, and before long, wildlife began returning gradually. Correspondingly. In a way that is similar to, or connected with. The ozone layer thinned, and correspondingly, skin cancer rates increased globally. Urban population grew rapidly, and correspondingly, public transport demand surged. Correspondingly, legal precedents evolved with rising cybercrime incidents worldwide. As a matter of fact, something that is literally or factually true. As a matter of fact, early childhood education boosts lifelong learning capabilities. The novel was unpopular initially. As a matter of fact, it later won literary awards. Early humans used tools, as a matter of fact, to hunt and gather more effectively. As. Compare things, groups, or qualities. The invention proved successful, as several trials demonstrated consistent results. Productivity improves as employees receive better training and flexible work hours. As the population grows, urban infrastructure must expand to meet rising demands. After all, despite what was said or planned before, the policy was necessary, after all, to protect endangered species from extinction. Scientific research benefits humanity, after all, by enhancing knowledge and health. Cultural traditions endure, after all, because they connect generations meaningfully. Notably, in a way that can or should be noticed, the experiment, notably, revealed flaws in previously accepted scientific theories. The law was reformed, notably improving the rights of marginalized communities. The company grew rapidly, notably increasing its market share worldwide last year. Otherwise. In another manner, differently. The team must meet deadlines, otherwise the project risks serious delays and failure. The law should be enforced strictly, otherwise, criminals may continue to break rules. The forest must be protected, otherwise, species loss will continue at an alarming rate. In vain. Without success in spite of your efforts. The rescue mission was carried out, in vain, due to extreme weather conditions. The company invested heavily, in vain, because the product lacked market demand. Scientists tried to revive the extinct species, in vain, despite advanced biotechnology. In contrast, when compared to another, the company's profits rose, in contrast to declining revenue in competitor firms. In contrast, some authors advocate for stricter copyright enforcement measures. The two countries differ economically, in contrast to their shared cultural heritage. Alternatively, as another option or possibility. Alternatively, machines can complete repetitive tasks with speed and high precision. Students can study abroad. Alternatively, they may choose local universities instead. Alternatively, businesses might focus on customer service, rather than just low prices. Above all else. More important than other things. Technological progress demands, above all else, a flexible and adaptable workforce. Above all else, education must foster critical thinking, across every academic discipline. Above all else, researchers emphasized the significance of peer-reviewed conclusions. In simpler terms, expressed in a more understandable way. In simpler terms, legal rights protect creative works from unauthorized distribution. In simpler terms, pollution occurs when harmful substances contaminate air or water. In simpler terms, weather changes influence migratory patterns across species groups. In plain language. Stated clearly and without complexity. In plain language, the spacecraft will return after completing lunar sample collection. In plain language, inflation means that everyday goods are becoming more expensive. In plain language, recycling reduces waste and helps save natural resources effectively. In many instances. Happens frequently across different situations. In many instances, environmental damage results from poor urban planning decisions. In many instances, global cooperation proves essential in managing disease outbreaks. In many instances, economic crises follow cycles of inflation and irresponsible lending. One clear cause. A definite reason for something happening. One clear cause of digital addiction is excessive reliance on smart technologies daily. One clear cause of unemployment is automation replacing human labor in industries. One clear cause of misinformation is unregulated access to online content and media. Based on logic. Supported through rational analysis. Based on logic, robots will eventually outperform humans in repetitive industrial tasks. Based on logic, reducing traffic congestion starts with improving public transportation. Based on logic, early astronomers predicted planetary motion with surprising accuracy. In a body. Close together in a single group, collectively. Voters, in a body, rejected corruption within the government and demanded reform. Protesters marched, in a body, demanding action against environmental destruction. Members, in a body, supported the organization's efforts toward cultural preservation. According to experts. Based on what professionals have stated. According to experts, the universe is constantly expanding at a measurable rate. According to experts, climate change accelerates due to unchecked industrial activity. The device, according to experts, will revolutionize remote medical diagnosis and care. To wrap up. To finish or conclude something. To wrap up, this innovation reduced carbon emissions significantly, over 2 decades. To wrap up, climate adaptation strategies require global cooperation and political will. To wrap up, global peace depends on mutual respect and sustained diplomatic efforts. Based on evidence. supported by verified facts or findings. Based on evidence, Einstein's theory redefined our understanding of time and space. Based on evidence, deforestation directly correlates with biodiversity loss worldwide. Based on evidence, vaccines dramatically reduced global mortality in the 20th century. The study concludes. Research ends with a final statement. The effects of loneliness on immunity, the study concludes, are significantly adverse. The experiment with artificial limbs, the study concludes, shows remarkable success. The study concludes that early exposure to music boosts mathematical learning skills. At the moment, right now, currently happening. At the moment, quantum computing remains a largely theoretical breakthrough. At the moment, biotechnology is rapidly advancing genetic engineering capabilities. At the moment, digital platforms are enhancing language acquisition and retention. In other words, expressed differently for clarification. In other words, evolution explains both diversity and common ancestry in species. Einstein's theory changed everything. In other words, time is not always constant. In other words, access to clean water is essential for health and economic progress. In like manner, in a similar or same way, the language evolved, in like manner, across multiple cultural and social influences. He analyzed global warming. In like manner, others studied climate migration effects. Monarchs ruled by force, and in like manner, dictators suppressed democratic voices. Ultimately, in the end, the final outcome. The spacecraft ultimately reached Mars, after years of collaborative scientific effort. He pursued language mastery, ultimately achieving fluency in 5 different dialects. Ultimately, global warming may reshape ecosystems and displace millions of species. Admittedly, it must be accepted as true. Admittedly, the initial hypothesis lacked sufficient evidence to support its claims fully. Admittedly, many discoveries took centuries before gaining wide scientific acceptance. Admittedly, early astronomers lacked modern tools, yet achieved remarkable accuracy. Rather than in preference to another option. People prefer online shopping rather than visiting physical stores in recent years. Experts, rather than speculate, conducted years of meticulous research and analysis. Rather than repeating errors, scientists adopt new methodologies for accurate results. Correspondingly. In a matching or similar way. Demand for electric cars surged, correspondingly, lithium production was scaled up. The digital age advanced, correspondingly, data analysis gained academic significance. Global temperatures rose significantly, correspondingly, ice caps started melting faster. Above all else. More important than everything else. Above all else, consistent discipline shapes long-term success in academic careers. Above all else, transparency ensures trust in political and corporate decision-making. Above all else, biodiversity must be protected to ensure ecosystem resilience survives. Straight away. Without any delay, or immediately. Upon identifying the data breach, the IT department shut down access straight away. The meteorologist detected a sudden pressure drop and warned citizens straight away. Straight away after the incident, officials began a full-scale investigation into the causes. Indeed. To confirm or agree with something. Indeed, literacy is essential for long-term social mobility and personal development. Historical records, indeed, reveal patterns of human migration over many centuries. Indeed, his actions demonstrated remarkable courage in such difficult circumstances. Traditionally, something is happening according to tradition. Leaders traditionally resolved conflicts through dialogue rather than military force. Traditionally, extended families lived together under one roof in rural communities. Traditionally, elders passed down knowledge through oral storytelling in rural cultures. Customarily. According to custom or established practice. Customarily, elders are respected as decision-makers in many Asian communities. Customarily, holidays are spent with family, celebrating shared traditions and meals. Customarily, artists use a variety of mediums to express unique cultural perspectives. In other words, Introducing another way of saying something. In other words, job satisfaction depends on both compensation and meaningful work. Legal reforms are essential. In other words, outdated laws must be updated promptly. Economic growth requires investment. In other words, funds must be allocated wisely. Uniquely. Which is not like anything else. Uniquely, art reflects both personal expression and cultural identity simultaneously. Education systems uniquely tailor curricula to meet students' diverse learning needs. The criminal justice system uniquely balances punishment with rehabilitation efforts. Over time. Happens gradually during a long period. Languages change and develop new words over time as societies evolve and interact. Space exploration techniques have evolved over time with better propulsion systems. War tactics, over time, evolved alongside technological and geopolitical advancements. By all means. Adds emphasis to the speaker's point. By all means, governments must enforce laws to prevent crimes effectively and justly. Teachers should, by all means, foster curiosity through real-life scientific case studies. By all means, cultural heritage must be preserved for future generations to appreciate. Pros and cons. The advantages and disadvantages of something. Entrepreneurs consider the pros and cons of launching during economic uncertainty. Discussing the pros and cons helps students develop critical thinking skills effectively. The pros and cons of genetically modified crops continue to generate heated debates. In the light of, because of a particular fact. Regulations were enforced in the light of growing financial fraud in global markets. Medical treatments improved in the light of innovative research on genetic disorders. Businesses adjusted strategies in the light of shifting consumer preferences worldwide. Occasionally. Happen at infrequent or irregular intervals. Individuals occasionally volunteer their time to help improve community well-being. People occasionally change careers to seek better opportunities and job satisfaction. Artists occasionally draw inspiration from historical events to create powerful works. Markedly. in a strikingly noticeable or conspicuous way. The language barrier posed a markedly significant challenge for international students. The health of the ecosystem has markedly declined because of deforestation activities. Public opinion has shifted markedly over the last decade due to social media influence. In general, in most situations, or for most people, students, in general, retain concepts better through hands-on scientific experiments. Travelers, in general, prefer convenience over cost when booking international flights. The artwork, in general, reflects cultural values and historical events of its time period. Bottom line. What the most important part of a situation? The bottom line in business is maximizing profit while maintaining ethical standards. In law enforcement, the bottom line is ensuring justice while respecting human rights. After extensive research, the bottom line suggests early childhood education is crucial. For good. Permanently, without the possibility of change. Once implemented, these changes will, for good, improve access to quality education. The company switched to sustainable materials for good, reducing pollution drastically. Advances in medicine have, for good, decreased mortality rates worldwide dramatically. In the first place, the situation as it was before a series of events. The conflict could have been avoided in the first place through better communication. In the first place, their relationship lacked trust and honest emotional communication. Many problems could have been avoided if, in the first place, safety measures existed.